Tomorrow or next week. Oh, okay. So, okay. You get a half a day off either tomorrow.
Recording in progress.
Good morning. I want to welcome everybody to the December 21st, 2023 meeting, subdivision meeting. Could we have our opening announcements, please?
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. Copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available on the counter in the lobby. The Planning Commission's bylaws limit the applicant of a subdivision application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the Commission may extend these times by a majority vote. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone.
Thank you. Philip, can we have roll call now, please?
Yes, sir. Bill Johnson.
Here.
Mike Green.
Here.
Bob Duell.
Here.
Ann Fox is absent. Josh Blick is absent. Bob Aldrich.
Here.
And John Williamsby.
Here.
Sir, I show we have a quorum of 5.
Thank you. I don't see any alternates, so our first case is item number 2, subdivision case 2023 00050, Drake Estate Edition.
Good morning, Greg Sharon, planning staff, here to represent Drake Estates. This is located a zoning map as zone RR residential. Next screen. Located 1/4 mile south of East 71st Street South on the east side of South 143rd Street East. The preliminary plat, this is the final plat submittal and review. The preliminary plat was approved on November 16th of this year. Next screen. This is a 5-lot subdivision. I'll go through staff comments. Item A, MABCD comments regarding soils test needed and soils work for memo. Item B, this is located in rural water district number 3. Surface is available and feasible. Then MABC recommends connection, and a memo would need to be provided specifying approval of water wells. Item D, County Stormwater has approved the drainage plan for this plat and request the plat be signed and sealed by professional engineer. Item E, the plat denotes one opening along 143rd Street East and two openings along 75th Street. Access controls are approved by County Public Works. Item F, County Public Works recommended access easement be part of Reserve A. This has been included in the revised plat that you see on the screen. Item H, private drive construction is needed, stating that the drive meets the county fire access requirements. And county fire advises plat need to comply with the county service drive code. And county fire advises that the existing drive needs widened to 20 feet for the portion that serves more than one home. Item N, plat will require a waiver of lot to depth ratio for lot 1 of this subdivision. And that is all the comments. Any questions?
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you. Any other comments from the advisory board members? Hearing none, applicant or agent?
Good morning. Will Clevenger with Garver here on behalf of the applicant. We're in agreement with staff comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of the agent? Thank you. Anybody present in the chambers here would like to speak on this item? Don't see anybody, so I'll bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve per staff comment. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Green, second by Johns Williams Bay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries 5-0. Next item's item 3, subdivision 2023-00057, 45th Avenue addition.
Morning, Greg Sharon, planning staff. This is presenting the 45th Avenue addition subdivision. This is a 17-lot subdivision located within the city. In that note, it says within 3 miles of the city. That will be stricken in the final staff report. This is subject to a zone change, 230067, and that is from SF5 single-family residential to a 2F3 two-family residential. That has been approved by the Planning Commission, but I believe it still has to be approved by the council. Next screen, please. The aerial photography. Next screen. And this is a revised plat that has been submitted. Staff comments. Item A, this is subject to the associated zone change and related conditions of the change, and this plat shall not be scheduled for city council until that zone change has been approved by city council. Item B, Public Works and Utilities requires sanitary tour to extend to all blocks and lots, and all fees are due for the connection. This is in Rural Water District Number 1, and the applicant needs to provide a right to serve from Rural Water District Number 1. Item E, City Stormwater Management advises the applicant needs to submit a drainage plan for review. Item K, standard city fire comment regarding verification of proper hydrant protection. City fire requires development of 1 or 2 family dwellings where the number of dwelling units exceed 30 shall provide 2 separate entrances. access roads, which this has provided. Item L, in lieu of the turnaround cul-de-sac that is required for streets over 150 feet, the applicant is requesting hammerheads in lieu of the cul-de-sacs. So a waiver for these hammerheads will be needed. Item M, traffic engineering approves of the access controls along North Webb Road and approves of the 5-foot additional right-of-way along North Webb Road for a total of 60 feet half street right-of-way. Staff report says 30. That will be changed in the final staff report to a 60-foot half street right-of-way. Item N, subdivision regulations require adjacent to unplatted property that a substreet be provided. Those substreets are provided to unplatted property to the north via the 44th Street Court, but no connection is identified for the unplatted property to the west. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a waiver of the required street connection to the property to the west. Item P, city health comment regarding wells. Those will need to be properly permitted. Item Q, GIS approves of the street names. Item R, the applicant has platted 15 and 20-foot front setbacks for lots along East 44th Street North and 20-foot front setbacks along the 44th Street courts, which represents an adjustment from the standard 25-foot setbacks for the two-family TF3 district. Item S, navigational easement and restrictive covenant will need to be submitted. And item O, Evergy will need to request additional easements, which have been provided to the applicant. Questions?
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you. Want to make a note that this box has arrived. Any other comments from the advisory board members?
Rondi with Evergy, no additional comment.
Thank you. Applicant or agent?
I've just got one question for fire. On the, have you approved the hammerheads that, on item L, it said city fire to approve hammerheads? Just wanted to make sure that those have been approved.
Yes.
You answered in affirmative. Yep, thank you.
Good morning, Michael Edwards, KE Miller Engineering, agent for the applicant. We agree with staff comments, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions of the agent? Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I was late. Do you agree with all the staff recommendations and comments?
Yes, we do. And I do believe we had submitted a drainage plan previously. I know there was a thing that said we needed to submit one, but I believe we submitted about 2 weeks ago, and we got affirmative from Joe. I just didn't know if that was added yet on there, so.
Do you know where that stands at this point?
Say that again?
Do you know where that stands as far as the approval or not?
I believe it was approved.
Mark Hall with Stormwater, that plan has been approved.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anybody present in the chamber that wants to talk on this, or speak on this issue? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission. What's pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve per staff comments and also approve the waivers that are included in those comments.
A second.
Got a motion by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Aldridge. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Our next item, subdivision 2023-00058, JNS edition.
Morning, Greg Sharon, planning staff, here to present the J&S edition, located north along East 55th Street South and 1,600 feet west of South Hydraulic Avenue. The property is zoned L1, and this is for a one-lot industrial subdivision. Next screen, please. Aerial photography, and then the next screen. Staff comments, Public Works advises water and sanitary sewer is available. Water distribution and transmission and sanitary lateral in lieu of assessments are due at the time of connection. Item D, City Stormwater Management advises the applicant needs to submit drainage plan. Item E, City Fire verification of proper hydrant protection. Item F, Traffic Engineering advises complete access controls along East 55th Street South with a preferred opening to be located near the eastmost frontage, more aligned with Patty to the south. Item G, Traffic Engineering approves of the right-of-way dedication along East 55th Street South. Item H, standard health comment regarding properly permitted and installed water irrigation wells. And item X, Evergy will not need to request additional easements at this time. And a couple notes that will be added to the final staff report is that the plat will need to indicate the associated cases on this property, the zoning petition 2023-18, BZA 4088, and the protective overlay number 420, which is associated with the zoning case. And a note shall be placed on the final plat indicating that this portion of this addition is subject to the protective overlay number 420. Questions?
Any questions of staff? Mr. Aldridge?
Was there a revision for this staff report? Where I'm going with this is that you're going down some of the line items right here and what you're saying and what's showing on mine, just they're not lining up there a little bit there, so you had me a little confused.
I know there was some mix-up when this first was published, that we inadvertently published the preliminary staff reports that we sent out to the departments for review. So this hasn't, from my knowledge, has changed since then.
Well, where I was getting at, for example, on staff comments, item number 8 says, City of Wichita Public Works and the Utility Department advises, and that's it.
Yeah,
So let
that
me hang in
was-
there a little bit.
That was, like I said, I apologize that we inadvertently published the preliminary staff report that we sent to the departments. And I believe that there was an updated that was submitted to everyone else. So apologize if that didn't get to you.
Okay, I just didn't want to miss anything.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Well, and to piggyback on that, I noticed on the previous case, the site map was incorrect. It was the same site map for this case and this plat and for the 45th Avenue plat. I did go eventually find it online. The website's changed, and so you kind of have to navigate your way through that. But I did notice, so I didn't say anything on that, but I agree with Mr. Aldridge. even on the previous case, you were referencing letter numbers or letters, and it didn't line up with the comments that were being made.
Right, like I said, and
I get that.
and-
I guess if there's some way that we as a commission or committee could be notified that there have been revisions and updates to erroneously sent staff reports, that you know, we would be notified with that. Staff does a very good job of sending us emails that say, well, here's the agenda and the packet for meetings coming up. But if we know to look there for the current staff reports, that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, it was my understanding that there was something that was sent out saying this is the revised, but I'll double check that and make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
Yes, we will.
Any other questions of
Thank you.
staff?
Mark Hall, stormwater, we have received a drainage plan for this and it has been approved.
Thank you. Any other comments from the advisory board members?
Rondi with Evergy, no additional comment.
Thank you. Applicant or agent?
Again, Michael Edwards, K.E. Miller Engineering, our agent for the applicant. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions, agent?
Do you agree with all staff recommendations and comments?
We agree with the
Okay.
staff recommendations.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the agent? Seeing none, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else in the chamber wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Move to approve for staff comments.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. John Williams Bay, second by Ms. Fox. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 6-0. Now we'll go to the vacation cases. Vacation 2023-00048.
Morning, committee members. Philip Zievenbergen with planning staff. Vacation 2348 is a request to vacate a portion of a 35-foot platted setback on the north portion of the lot. It'd be vacating the south 10 feet of it, which would reduce the setback down to 25 feet. The property is located on the southwest corner of North Hoover and West 21st Street. This is right where Zoo Boulevard intersects and becomes 21st Street in Northwest Wichita. The property is zoned general commercial, and it is developed with a structure. If you go to the aerial, please. The intent of the, if you want to go to the the site plan now, the intent of the building setback vacation is to permit a building addition that will wrap around the north and the east sides of the building, which would encroach into the current platted building setback just in this north area. And so they're needing to reduce the setback in order to accomplish the building expansion. The property line on the north would be considered front based on the linear frontage. And the Unified Zoning Code for a general commercial district is 20 feet. If it was a zoning setback, so the 25-foot remainder of the building setback still exceeds the minimum of the GC zoning, so there should be no issues there. Public utilities have no objection to this. There are no public utilities in the described setback. Neither Evergy or Cox have any equipment in the vacation area, and they do not object to the vacation either. I have not heard any public comment on this, and I can stand for questions.
Any questions of staff? Thank you, Philip. Anything from the advisory board members? Any comments?
Rondi with Evergy, no additional comment.
Applicant or agent?
Good morning, Tanner Cole, applicant. We agree with staff comments and stand for any questions you have.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else here in the chamber want to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission.
Motion to approve vacation request 2023-00048 as given.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Aldridge, second by Mr. Green. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Dole seconded. In favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carry 6-0. The next item is vacation case 2023-00049.
This vacation item is a request to vacate a platted alley that is located between South Broadway and South Topeka, and also between East William and East English. As you can see on the screen here, the future proposed development on this property is a future biomedical center. Go to the aerial, please. The majority of the property, as you can see, is a parking lot. You have some buildings in this location over here. And the L-shaped portion of the property is owned by the city of Wichita, who's one of the applicants. The other is owned by Cornejo Holdings LLC, who also signed the application. So all properties that abut the alley have agreed to the petition of this alley. And due to the nature of being in the downtown grid, no property would be deprived of any access if it is vacated. You can see that there's a public sewer line running down the middle of the alley. The applicant will have to work with the city on any easements, which is a condition of possibly providing easements if it's going to stay. Any relocation would have to be coordinated with the city of Wichita and would be at the applicant's expense. That doesn't necessarily have to be decided at this time, but there's a condition of approval for an easement if required. They are able to relocate it if the city is allowing to that, and I'll let Public Works comment on that in the future if they need to. There's also the applicant's exhibit. If you go to that one, also shows an AT&T line, gas service lines as well. Again, same standard comments as well of any relocation would have to be agreeable to those franchise utilities and would be at the applicant's expense, or they will be dedicating an easement in order to protect them. That would be cover the entire width of the alley. Reversion rights would go back to the lots from which the alley was dedicated, so restrictive covenants would be needed to bind the vacated alley to those properties on the either side. The alley is cut in half, and the vacated portions of the alley go to the associated properties on other sides. I have not heard any public comments on this. Evergy and Cox have lines, as we've talked about. They do not object to the vacation. Any removal or relocation of their lines would be at the applicant's expense. The staff report, the future staff report for MAPC will include the contact information for Evergy for the applicant to coordinate any utility work with them. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Any questions, staff? Thank you, Philip. Advisory board members, any comments?
Rondi with Evergy. Staying with the same comments, you can either contact Abby Brungart or you can contact Shane Price, Field Supervisor, because I think he's working with the bio company. Thank you.
Agent or applicant, please.
Good morning, Brian Lindeback, MKEC Engineering on behalf of the owner and applicants. I just may make mention that this section through here, this will have a special easement. We are going to work with city and staff to generate these easements. This section will have a special easement given the fact that we'll be building over the top of it. The only other request that I would have is that we, in lieu of a restrictive covenant that binds the two properties together, we just ask that that be done with a special warranty deed. That seems to be just as effective, and we've done that in the past. So.
Any questions of the agent?
Brian, this is Mark Hall with Stormwater. I noticed that on the north end, there's a stormwater drain. Is that stubbing out towards William, or does it run down the alley as well?
It just stubs out at William.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'm gonna ask staff about the comment that Mr. Lindeback stated.
If the warranty deed effectively does the same thing as a restrictive covenant, I don't think there's any issue there, just as long as the alleyway is, when it's vacated, it's tied to the surrounding property, so it's not a floating parcel. We don't have any issue with
Okay,
that.
thank you. And legal, just give us the okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there anyone else present want to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board?
Recommend approval based on staff comments.
Is that with the support of
With
the restrictive covenant?
acknowledging the ability to use a warranty deed instead of the restrictive covenant.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Fox, second by, I think, Mr. Green.
It's a lot easier to see their lips.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes 6-0. Next case is vacation case 2023-00050.
Vacation 2350 is a request to vacate 10 feet of a 25-foot platted setback on the kind of westerly, northwesterly portion of property located near 36th Street and Rock, where 36th Street turns into Inwood Drive. The property is zone MF18, multifamily residential, and is not developed. Go to the aerial, please. The future intended development of this property is a series of duplex development off of private drives. That level of density would be controlled by the zoning, so there's no need to discuss that. They didn't necessarily have a site layout per se of to where they are, but the intention is to have the sides of the buildings be along the street where they would enter in. And so effectively, this would be acting as a street side setback. Not dissimilar to the street side setbacks along Inwood Street from the single-family residential development to the west. Reducing the 25-foot setback down to 15 feet matches the 15-foot street side setback in the SF5 district on the west side. So it does technically exceed the zoning setback for MF18, which is 20, but it exceeds it by 5 feet. That would be something possibly able to be adjusted, maybe not down to exactly to 15 feet, but getting there close if it was just a zoning setback. And again, it matches a street side setback of the single family development to the west. Public Works and Utilities, Fire and Traffic Engineering have no objection to the vacation. You can see the public sewer line crosses the setback, but it's confined to an easement as well as the jog and the water line in relation to the bridge that goes over the creek. There's also an easement over the creek as well, and that's not any part of this vacation application. It's just the portion of the setback, and any development in anywhere around these utilities would have to adhere to the easement lines. And so all of that stuff is still protected. Cox and Evergy have lines in and near the setback in question. They do not have any objection to the vacation, any development anywhere near their lines. They would have to work with those companies. Relocation or replacement is at the applicant's expense. If they didn't want to protect them by easements, they're not required to. And they can get the contact information from the future staff report. Stephen Cronister with Evergy, they can contact for more information about that. I have not heard any public comment on this, and I can stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff? Mr. Aldridge?
On the site plan, it's showing a good portion of the floodway runs right on the property right there. Would that, any issues on that, would that be dealt with at plating?
It is already platted. That's where the setback came from, is a platted setback, and the floodway denoted on here is in an easement, and none of the easements are part of this vacation. So those easements are still in place, and any development of the site has to adhere to those easements and have to be outside of those easements. So it will not have any conflict with the floodway.
Okay, thank you.
Philip, this is Mark Hall with Stormwater. If you could go back to that aerial photograph and take a look at the difference between this floodway where it's platted in there. There are several other lines that come in off of adjacent properties that are running through an area that is not in that easement, not in that floodway easement. And I believe that we need to do something about ensuring that that water will not impact the new building that's going on here or impact the folks that are discharging currently.
Okay, is that something that's handled through the building permit process, or how is that most effectively handled?
I'm really not sure, but most all of this is outside of the current easements, and it's been this way for 25 years. So, I mean, we just need to make sure that there's not any adjacent property impact.
Okay. Any suggestions on how to do that?
However that needs to look, they may need to go in and do a portion of a replat or something to include all of that in there, because I mean, there's quite a bit that's outside of that area. In the past, if there's a way to go to an aerial view of this, standing on that bridge, looking back through that property, somebody at some point has tried to put in a bunch of 36-inch pipe to try to be able to cross back and forth over the top of that. And all of that is just laying in there, just cattywampus any which way you could think of. The reason I know and understand this is because I've been called several times by adjacent property owners to say the city needs to get out there and take care of this, and it's all on private property.
Would those issues be something that would need to come back to the subdivision or planning or the planning commission, or is that something that could be handled outside of us?
I would refer to the city attorney on his advice.
I think it's handled outside. We usually deal with these matters, but like I said, most of the time what we say is this is a private matter, it's on private property. But if they're going to be doing anything regarding those pipes or whatever, they're going to have to seek approval from the stormwater department. We'll deal with it at that time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We could possibly add a condition that if additional easements or expansion of easements, those can be dedicated by a separate instrument, not necessarily by a replat, but it could be something of adding a condition of requiring any easements as necessary prior to the issuance of building permits related to encompassing existing floodway or floodplain. As approved by city stormwater or something to that effect?
Yeah, if we could put a note in the building process that way, then I think that should work.
What, if we make it as a condition of approval of this, they would have to go through that exercise, essentially get your approval, provide any easements or whatever before this is even approved by city council. Does that work?
Yeah, and it makes sense to get all that pipe out of there because they put that in with whoever put it in, however long ago, put that in without any permitting. Division of Water Resources doesn't know anything about it, and that channel just needs to be opened up and used as a channel instead of all that stuff in it.
Okay.
Any other advisory board members have any comments, please?
Rondi with Evergy. We don't have any objection. However, our equipment up there is extremely full. There's no equipment to serve whatever duplexes they're going to put in here is what I gather. So they're going to have to get a hold of Stephen Chronister, or if they're, depending on how many they're building, they might want to get a hold of Kevin Reischick, the subdivision rep, because they're going to have to figure out new equipment to be placed. And then we have underground lines and some equipment at the north end that's kind of crossing the area that they're vacating at the north end, right at 36th Street, I believe. So Stephen Chronister is probably who they want to start with, but they're going to have to discuss putting new equipment in because there's nothing up there to feed them right now.
Any other advisory board members have any comments?
Yeah, Matt Schultz, City Engineering. Where the water line jogs out and away from the bridge at the crossing there, we would like to ensure that there's a an easement that would encompass water lines, and as well as, the vacated portion not be along that water line as well.
Any other advisory board members have any comment? Seeing none, applicant or agent, please.
And Michael Edwards, KE Miller Engineering, agent for the applicant. We agree with staff comments, and I could maybe address some questions about the drainage for Mark. We do have a plan that we're putting together to replace, to replace that structure that looks like it's been washed out and destroyed. I know you mentioned just making it a channel, but we were also looking into whether or not that pond was serving as detention for the site, for the upstream stuff at the Kohl's and the shopping center, and whether or not we needed to actually utilize that area still for detention. We have all the plans to leave that as a detention area, not develop it, and be able to tie it in with, if there needs to be some sort of structure there that would act as detention before letting it downstream.
And without seeing the numbers, I can't tell you for sure if that is being used for detention. I would almost think that this would qualify for the 10% rule with everything that's going on there at the top of that channel. But like I say, without seeing the numbers, I can't know.
Okay. Yep, we are working that plan, and we'll submit something to.
Just make sure Mr. Hickle knows all about it.
Right. Any other questions?
Any questions of the agent? I guess not.
Right.
Thank you. I guess Ms. Fox is going to.
Philip mentioned that the easement could actually be smaller, 15 instead of 20 feet. Does that help you, or is that a benefit to you in this situation along the perimeter
Meaning
to
taking
match
it
the
from
other side?
So
Take it from 20 to 15. Is that something that you prefer, or does it matter to anyone?
right now, is it? It's going
20.
down to 15, right? Is what we were.
I thought it
Yeah. We would request it be at 15.
at 15. Okay.
Any other questions, agent? Thank you. Anyone else present that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to recommend approval with the additional addition we just discussed with staff, and also utility supports pertaining to the floodway easements.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Aldridge, second by Mr. Green. Any discussion?
Do we need to add the easement at the water lines too, since it's not mentioned?
Well, that is what I meant by the
additional
discussion, that the additional discussions.
Okay.
Is staff comments and utility support.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 6-0. Next vacation case is vacation case 2023-00051.
Again, good afternoon, Philip Zievenbergen. This is a vacation of a portion of complete access control along the west line of Reserve A Sawmill Creek addition, which is located on the east side of North Rock Road, about a half mile north of East 45th Street. The request is to vacate a portion of access control to allow a 35-foot drive onto Reserve A. With Sawmill Creek addition, this would provide access to an undeveloped lot from Rock Road. The intended use is for future commercial development. This case is associated with a zone change 2023-68, which is requesting a zone change from SF5 single-family residential to NR neighborhood retail, which will provide a limited number of commercial uses. It is recommended that this vacation be subject to the zone change request. If it is approved, if the zone change is approved, and this is just more background information, doesn't necessarily go with the access control. And the agent understands this as well, that if this is approved, there will be a subsequent vacation request for the platter's text of Reserve A, because it does not currently allow what would be allowed in our zoning. So that's just something down the road that if all this kind of goes together, they're just not wanting to go through that vacation process if they don't get the zoning to allow their uses anyway. If this is approved, it will allow one full movement access approximately 400 feet north of East Sawmill Road, which is the local street that goes into the subdivision. This meets the access management standards for the city of Wichita. The interesting thing about this case is, as you can see here on the map, the west line of the subdivision is the city limits of Wichita. Everything west of that, including the entire right-of-way of Rock Road, is in the city of Bel Air. I reached out to the city of Bel Air for comments. They do have some different standards. One includes the standard width would be 30 feet instead of 35. They may have different separation standards as well. So a condition of approval is that the final spacing and design of the driveway needs to meet the standards of the Bel Air Municipal Code. What's interesting about this case is, though Rock Road is in the city of Bel Air, the platted access is on the plat that's in Wichita. So Bel Air can't request vacation of a plat that's not in Bel Air, but they're asking for access onto a road that is. So it's different when it's in the county because this committee is both city and county, but when we're doing two different municipalities, you guys need to consider the vacation of access control on the plat because that was platted in the city of Wichita. But we do need to adhere, we need to acknowledge that the city of Bel Air may have different standards. So that is a condition of approval, that they will need to work with the city of Bel Air. Should you guys recommend approval and planning commission approve the vacation of the access control, that they will need to be working with Bel Air on the driveway design and things like that because it is onto their road. There's a Wichita water line in the right-of-way at this location. The construction of the drive over top of the water line is permissible. Public Works and Utilities commented that there's an air release valve near this location as well. Any raising, lowering, or relocation of the air release valve would be at the applicant's expense. Traffic Engineering and Wichita Fire do not object to the vacation. Again, should this go through, they would need to work with the city of Bel Air regarding any modifications to it. Evergy and Cox have lines near this area. It is likely that they're not in conflict. However, any removal or relocation would be at the applicant's expense. I have not heard any public comment on this, and I can stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff? Mr. Green?
Yeah, Philip, on page 2, the itemized 1 through 5, which one of those covers the need to go to Bel Air?
Number 1, final spacing and design of the driveway shall meet the standards of the municipal code that governs the right-of-way at the time of permitting.
Okay.
It's written generally enough that
that's
should the jurisdiction change, which isn't likely going to happen, we didn't write it in such to pigeonhole it to Bel Air. It's not likely that this part of Rock Road would come into Wichita, but I guess stranger things have happened. So
Okay,
there's no
thank-
intention to do that. It's just written generally, should something randomly change, but it does cover that it needs to go to Bel Air because that's currently where the right-of-way sits.
Thank you for that clarification because I
Any
wasn't.
additional questions of staff?
I like to use a lot of government language to confuse people.
Jeff likes that.
Mr. Aldridge?
So the applicant is requesting a 35-foot access. Bel Air, City of Bel Air is saying only a 30-foot. What happens if Bel Air doesn't allow them to access?
Right, if 35 feet is vacated, that just allows a 35-foot opening. If Bel Air requires a 30-foot driveway, they can put a 30-foot driveway in a 35-foot opening. So you're actually, the request is vacating more than technically what Bel Air would allow. And if working through Bel Air, they only permit them a 30-foot driveway, at least they can fit a 30-foot driveway in a 35-foot opening. At least it's not the other way around. So likely there should not be any need to come and modify the spacing of it. They just may not get a 35-foot drive, even though they got a 35-foot opening. It allows them a little bit of wiggle room of where that 30-foot
Yeah,
drive may
they'd
be
be better off
located.
to have a 35 then. Let them
But
worry about it.
I was like, that's something where, depending on knowing it's a possible commercial use, that's something for them to work out with Bel Air of if they're okay with an additional 5 feet, even though their code recommends 30.
Only 2.5 foot on either side.
Any other questions, staff? Any comments from the advisory board members?
Rondi with Evergy. Philip, do I have LaDonna or do I have Stephen Cronister?
You have Steven on here.
That would be correct, thank you. I have him on my notes are wrong.
Any other
Additional comment?
Any other comments from the advisory board? Not applicant or agent?
Hi again, Michael Edwards, KE Miller Engineering. We agree with staff comment. Open for any questions.
Any question of the agent? Thank you. Anybody else in the commission chamber want to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we approve, based on staff recommendations and comments.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Aldridge, second by Mr. Dool. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Passes 6-0. Our next case is vacation case 2023-00052.
Again, for the record, Philip Zievenbergen, this is a request to vacate a portion of complete access control on the east side of North Greenwich, just south of East 13th Street. This would be across the west line of Lot 3, Block 1 of the Gateway Center 3rd Edition. If you want to go to the area, actually, just go to the applicant's exhibit, please. They're requesting to vacate complete access control for the south 283 feet of this lot to allow a right-in, right-out opening. I will note a handout on your desk is a little bit of revised request that they've worked with traffic engineering. The top is an email between the agent and Mike Armour, the traffic engineer, modifying the request. And I'll get into those details in just a little bit. The property has current access through cross-lot access agreements because of the community unit plan with the zoning that's on the site. It also has access off of a shared access drive off of 13th Street on the north. Reserve A was vacated in 2014. It would have provided ingress and egress. That's what it was originally platted for, but the platter's text was vacated to allow for development in Reserve A subject to the uses allowed in the community unit plan. So it is no longer available for an ingress and ingress access point. Traffic engineering is okay with the right-in, right-out access point in this area. The modified request that you have before you really just narrowly tailors where the right-in, right-out access point would be. Essentially, there's from the south property line, there'd be complete access control for 150 feet. And then the next 158 feet is a section where one opening would be permitted and it would still be right-in, right-out. If that opening were to be farther north, then you can see in Greenwich, there's a median indicated, a paved median. If it is north of that paved median, they would work to extend the paved median in order to ensure that it is a right-in, right-out only access, so that left turns would not be allowed at that location. And that's the discussion that was between the agent and Mike Armour, the traffic engineer, and they seem to be amenable and agreeable to that as well. A drive in this location is essentially less than 400 feet from the other access points, which does not meet access management standards for full movement accesses, but it is essentially approximately 200 feet from 13th Street or driveways to the south, which is where the right-in, right-out access is appropriate. So there's no issue with that. Evergy and Cox have equipment in the area. They do not object to the vacation. Any removal or relocation is at the applicant's expense. Evergy had an additional note to say that though removal and relocation is allowed and they have no objection to it, they just wanted to make sure that the agent and applicant knew that it could be fairly costly based on the type of equipment they have in the area. Again, doesn't prohibit them from doing it, just wanted to give them a heads up that it is possibly a little bit more costly than normal, and I'll let Evergy expand if they need to on as to why that is. I've not heard any public comments on this, and I can stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff?
I would note the plan moving forward with the modified request is we can still vacate the south 280 feet of access control. What they're going to do is then dedicate a access control document by separate instrument, which will rededicate the south 150 feet as access control and have the language regarding one right-in, right-out opening in that middle area. It will also include text regarding extension of the median if necessary, if that's where the drive is located. So we don't have to modify what we're doing. The conditions of approval still cover this of requiring a dedication of access control in order to rededicate the south 150 feet.
Mr. Aldridge.
With the modifications to the media, would that be at the expense of the property or the agent or applicant?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
And will the right-in, right-out drive, will it have the little island in the middle of it so that it is clearly noted and seen as a right-in, right-out?
No, it will not have the pork chop because the median will block any left turn movements into that approach.
Okay, how much further south would that median go? The reason why I ask is we've got a situation up at 29th and Mays Road for a car wash there that has a median and there's no pork chop in a driveway, and they're turning in to go into that car wash against, they're doing loops and going in and out of that. It should be a right-in, right-out only, but they're using it as a full access. So that was the reason for my question.
We will work with the agent if that comes about to design appropriately.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the staff?
I believe that there is a curb cut in this property somewhere north of that car wash right now. There's no street there, but a person can make a left or right-hand turn into that curb cut, I think.
Here's the access point and here's the car wash. I don't necessarily see it on the... I see some replacement of sidewalk here where they might have had one where a drive could have been in Reserve A and maybe they went back and replaced it. I don't know.
Any other questions of staff? Advisory board members?
Rondi with Evergy. I think what we have there is primary line that services from 13th all the way down to Central. And that's why it would be cost prohibitive for them to move. And we had already relocated when they expanded Greenwich out and widened it. So it services everything, and there's quite a bit in there that it services, along with meeting up with what services the residential neighborhood to the south of there as well. So that's why it's cost prohibitive. And you can get a hold of Shane and Stephen and talk to them about it. But it can be done, it's going to be very cost prohibitive.
Thank you. Applicant or agent?
Good morning again, Brian Lindeback, MKEC Engineering on behalf of the owner and applicant. We're in agreement with staff comments as revised here. We'll provide the dedication accordingly with the language regarding the median extension so that it prevents left turn, a full movement there. It would be. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions of the agent? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the chamber wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to board.
If I could real quick, item 1 of the conditions of approval actually needs to be revised to say, as need to provide planning with a dedication of access control and not an easement. I just caught that, so if we want to have a motion with revised comments or revised conditions, that will cover it.
Everybody in agreement on that? Okay, bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to approve based on the revised comments, staff comments, and also to make sure that we include the immediate modifications.
Got a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fox. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
6-0.
Mr. Chairman, before we end the meeting, I need to make an apology to staff on my comments concerning the agendas. I went through my email and I did find the Subdivision Utility Advisory Committee agenda and staff reports in the subject line, and I thought it was just an emailed copy of what we got in the mail. And it, in fact, when you get into the body of the email itself, it says attached revised copy. So I didn't, yeah, that's my bad. But I wanted to make sure that I did apologize to staff for that comment. Yeah.
And I would like to just take a note to say this is Neil Straw's last subdivision meeting before he retires in the new year. We're not making a big to-do out of it, but he will have planning commission on the 28th, but this is his last subdivision after 27 years, 26 years. We'll just give him an extra one anyway, after that many years, but yes.
Neil, it's been a pleasure over the years.
Done a great job for the city and county. Any other business we need to bring in front of us? Well, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for your assistance and your patience.